everyone to our expert webinar, Pace, Tech and the Bottom Line, Lessons in On-Course Management from Grizzly Ranch. And I am delighted to welcome Caleb Olsen, the General Manager. Caleb, how are you this morning?
Doing great.
And that's fantastic to hear. And yes, you asked a fair question. How do we schedule a webinar on the day of the Masters? Maybe it's a stroke of genius, right? And yeah, but we want to make sure that we get through some amazing content and learn about how you do things and let everyone get back to their busy day and watching lots of the big screen in just about an hour from now. All right, Caleb, I'd love to get an introduction from yourself on your amazing golf course, and also always exciting to learn how did you get to be in the seat that you're in? What was your journey in golf? Golf is so amazing when it comes to that and the community that it brings. So I always want to know.
Yeah. Uh, well, I started golf when I joined the Marine Corps right out of high school. I got lucky enough to station in Hawaii on Oahu. So I played at a golf course called Clipper. I had a buddy that drugged me out to a course I knew nothing about it. It was terrible. Hit one good shot on the 11th hole, which is a par three, and that was the rest of my golf story after that. Um, Once I got out of the Marine Corps, like most Marines do, they go to be a cop. So I was hired to be a cop, a deputy up in the Seattle area. Quickly realized that I enjoy golf more. So got into the golf business, went to school, um, schooling at the University of Wisconsin, then got into the PGA program, passed my playing test. I like rural areas, so I took a job at a nearby course here, but I started my journey at Grizzly Ranch in 2013. Was hired as the head pro, and then now I'm the director of golf and GM, and absolutely love this place.
Brilliant. You do have a smart way of picking nice offices there, right? Hawaii and the beautiful Grizzly Ranch. Tell us a bit more about the golf course. What are you guys all about?
Well, we're all about golf. Bob Cup designed our golf course. This place opened in 2005. It was exclusively private. We've transitioned to semi-private, like a lot of clubs have.
Mhm.
The downturn hurt the development of this community, but the golf course has always been the pride and joy of everything here. Um, so we are now semi-private. We still have annual membership, but we have gotten some really nice rankings through Golf Digest, ranked in the top 100, top 9 in California. And Bob created a gem that you will play every single day and love it.
That's yeah, I love the story and also how passionate you are about the course. I'm sure that translates every single day into many good golf stories.
Yes.
Um, top nine in California. That's how many golf courses? 1,200?
I
That's a
think there's like 1,300 courses or so
yeah,
in California. Yeah.
yeah. That's an amazing achievement, and it doesn't happen by chance, right? There's like lots of effort goes into that every single day to get that sort of accolade. And one that yeah we're always proud of is that if somebody really levels up their work they do with Tagmarshal. So you guys are a gold award recipient of ours for the last season. So well done on that. I know Golf Digest is obviously the big one, but for us, yeah, we live on data, right? And we can immediately see if somebody is dialed into the program and gets good results for their players. So well done on that. And then maybe just one um, a quick lesson on where you guys are at and where your players generally come from that you serve.
Well, the Reno market is 45 minutes away. So we targeted that pretty heavily. So they support us weekdays. And then the weekends, we get group play from all over the country. Texas is a huge part of our recruitment for the golf course, but we get the Bay Area, our drive-to market,
Mhm.
obviously. But with the rankings that we've got, within every foursome, there is one new player, and you don't know where he's from, that brings additional play in the future
Mm.
or additional bookings. So, I mean, we have people from Tennessee, Louisiana, Florida, Maine have come out here. A lot of Wisconsin players come here too, probably because I'm from there.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I think we got a good introduction, and just maybe one last question on yeah, how long is your season, and how many rounds do you plan on allowing this season?
Uh, our threshold is around 18,000. So our season starts usually May through October. This season, we actually just opened April 3rd, which we've never done before because the golf course is so good and we had a very light winter.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, our threshold is around 18,000 rounds, so we can still protect our member play and create the semi-private experience that we like everybody to feel here. We don't ever want to overcrowd this place,
Sure.
and we're in a nice position to have control over that.
Yeah. No, fantastic. Now you can choose that.
Yeah.
And also obviously part of your business model. Brilliant. And thanks for the introduction. Let me scoot ahead and quickly introduce Tagmarshal. Like I said, my name is Bodo Sieber. I'm the CEO and co-founder. I'm German born and raised, in case you're wondering about my name and accent. Um, yeah, we have now tracked 95 million rounds. I think a few weeks from now we'll scratch on the 100 million because a busy weekend now as the season starts puts a lot of load on our system. And yeah, we're very blessed to work with some of the very best clubs out there. That's Erin Hills in beautiful Wisconsin, Whistling Straits. Actually, our first two customers ever, right? So we've got a lot of roots into Wisconsin, and all the way to Royal Portrush, the Orcas at St Andrews, Baltusrol, Valhalla, you name it. I think it's more than 50 of the top 100. Yeah, including your fantastic facility, and we also partner with the DP World Tour and some of the tours. The slightly different use case, but for us, it's always about what can we learn from these operators and what their needs are, and then we learn from the best in business, and we learn from all the data, right? And then our mission is how can we filter that back into a system that just keeps evolving in line with what you, the operators, need, right? And because it's never finished, right? Much like your golf course is never finished, you can always find ways to improve your service and how you run things, and it's the same for us. So, yeah, we obviously have grown tremendously as a company, and one of the reasons we're very grateful for that. One of the reasons is the growth in the game, right? Where you mentioned it earlier in your introduction that a lot of golf courses were hurting in that 2008 crunch, and actually quite a few foreclosures. So I recently read that there's now 13% less golf supply in the States than there was at that pre-crunch period, maybe 2005, 6. But you have so much more play, right? 18 million additional people are engaged in the game. Sure, a lot of them love their top golf and simulators and that, but they're still part of that big funnel that's coming into the game. And we keep seeing growth, and obviously COVID has been an amazing accelerator. But one of the things that is a huge opportunity for golf is retention. And because 21% of public golfers, yeah, leave the game every year, it's a hard game, and also the highest risk of churn is within the first 2 years, right? So I just wanted to ask you, obviously you have a member base, but you're also, you know, growing the game and getting people to come and love the experience. How do you think about retention when it comes to the things that you do week in and week out?
Well, retention is one of the biggest things you have to focus on. We do that. A lot of people assume that we are a public golf course, but still giving it the private aspect of it. Um, Being personable to everybody that comes in, and saying hi and shaking their hand is a huge part of it. I think there are a number of clubs that miss that
Mm,
opportunity when you go and visit them. Um, they are more interested in just taking your credit card than getting to know the person, the player.
mm.
So remembering that is one of the biggest things that has helped us and how my staff operates here, making an experience for them. You may have a bad product, you might have a great product, but making sure that they feel very welcome while they're here is huge.
Yeah, I think you hit on an important point because ultimately people want community and they want to belong, right? So if you can make them feel that and they have the best time out there with their playing partners and they want to come back, then you've done your job. And I think that goes a long way in them going back to wherever they came from and telling an excited story about their golf trip while they get more people onto the golf course again, right? So there's retention built into that service attitude. Love to hear that. One question I want to ask you, yeah, and you mentioned it, you're here to create an experience, but if you had to pick three that are non-negotiable in terms of what golfers need from you out of this list here, which three would you pick? And only three, you can't do four or five. Which three would you pick?
Well, conditioning is something there it's always going to be commented on. So making sure your product, and we are all about golf here. So is the golf course in the condition that somebody's going to want to come back and play 2, 3 days a week or several times a year, whatever it might be. Pace of play is definitely the biggest one. You never want to be labeled as a slow golf course. That's hard to recover from.
Mm.
Um, Hold on, I got to move you a second. Uh, and the design that can be a hard thing to change, but the design of the golf course is probably one of the bigger
Yeah.
areas to focus on. Yeah, amenities and everything. That's things that those I guess that'd be four. Sorry, those are things you can improve internally. So,
Sure.
but the condition and pace of play is the two biggest for me.
Yeah, and the USGA's research is backing you. They found that 84% of players rank conditioning as the top factor. Then the one closest to that is playing partners, right? As a
Yep.
player, I want to play with good people. And then number three, which is I think 76% of players are saying it's a key aspect for them is pace and flow. And yeah, you married the two years. Like if you have a fantastically conditioned golf course, but the pace is not great, well, people don't remember the design. They don't remember the conditioning, right? They take away that as part of the experience. So if you get it right, that's when your product really shines. And there's obviously many, many other reasons why it's a good idea to focus on that. That's also why we are on this webinar because that's our focus. Yeah, you mentioned the University of Wisconsin, and they did University of Wisconsin Start. I don't know if it's the same one, but they have a golf management course. Unfortunately, it's not PGA accredited, but it's very good. And the University of Wisconsin did a research study with the USGA over the course of more than a year, really getting it under the hood at a lot of golf courses and quizzing thousands of players to try and find out what are the experience factors that really matter and how many experience factors are there, and which of them float to the top and delight players, and which of them are rock bottom and frustrate players, and which of them are somewhere in the middle. And it doesn't really matter if we pay attention to them, because as an operator, we need to know what to focus on. Sure, we know anecdotally, but what does the data say, right? Um, and they found that the worst performing aspects of a player experience are both pace related. Absolute worst thing to happen to a player is other people are slow, speed of other players, and corrective pace of play actions. Those are the two worst things. If that happens on a golf course, the experience is ruined, right? And then on the flip side, even higher than conditioning, uh, positive ranger etiquette and friendliness of the play assistant. Like if that is done well, that makes the golfer's day. Somehow makes everything shine. And very close. to that, somewhere in between that is playing partners and conditioning, all those good things, but information provided about pace of play expectations and having a level of competency around that demonstrated by the golf course makes the players feel like they're in good hands. So, yeah, how are you thinking about that? Are you surprised at all that this is so polar in how players experience that?
Well, I mean, I 100% agree with that. That the interaction with your players out there is one of the most important things that you can do. There's a right way and a wrong way to do it. You can turn a slow round of golf because sometimes there's not much you can do, but
Mm.
still give a positive experience by the interaction that we do, our staff does, my pro, the different things that we do to make sure that we are ahead of it so we don't
Mhm.
fall behind. Then, as long as you're paying attention, everybody really appreciates it.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's exactly the competency, right? People want to be
Yeah.
looked after, and I think I mean, we can see from the data that it really shows how much attention you pay, and obviously that is what keeps you going up the rankings, and then what keeps coming people back. And yeah, you were not scared to get technology involved. So I want to just quickly introduce that world of Tagmarshal in terms of the technology that's available. So we have various systems that will track your golf cart. So we have a classic tracker that goes and hides away in the golf cart, and so we know where it is at all times. They can also cart stop if that's required, and we have an 8-inch and a 10-inch that is that two-way facing front end. And we also have walking units all the way to a range tag, which is a rangefinder with a built-in tracker that a lot of our partners use that have got big caddy programs. And then our latest bit of tech is a wind tag that measures wind on the green and automates the pin position and then sends that live wind data and pin data back into the system, and then obviously golfers can now better make better club selection and playing decisions because they know exactly the wind they're playing into, and it automates that whole setup process. But what all of these systems do is they feed data into our cloud service, and then that gets processed, and then we show that on a live map. So that's a little bit like Waze or Google Maps on what happens on your golf course in real time. And then there's a lot of backend data that helps you really understand all of these variables that make the golf course tick, right? And you can never know enough about your business because, hey, how can we make sure that mistakes don't happen? How can we create more capacity safely, right? Because that's good for our business. Yeah, so this is obviously what you guys have invested in, and this goes very neatly into your cart fleet. Tell me a bit about your carts that you've got running and what the experience is in with the carts and then having put the system in.
It was pretty seamless in installing. So we have the Yamaha, we have gas carts. We're one of the few counties in California that can allow gas carts for our operation. It's the best thing for us. Uh, the installation process was extremely easy. Uh, we have 81 carts. We're adding an additional 10 carts with the upgraded 10-inch screens here in just a couple months. And the system has been terrific, well received.
I know that you've got a really large, expansive golf course. So, your decision to go with gas carts, have you always had gas carts, or when did you
And
make that?
we had electric. We switched to gas in I think 2016, just because of where we have to go charge our carts. We don't have an underground facility below the clubhouse like a lot of places do have. So the transition of moving electric carts every single day was a nightmare with some high school kids and young bucks that don't know how to tow a cart. But that's why we went to gas. So our fleet can now be staged permanently during operations right around the golf shop. So we can flip a cart in a matter of moments.
That's awesome. And for us, obviously, we have dialed our system into that cart environment because we want to make sure that our system just draws just enough power, right, and doesn't run down the cart battery. And that's really well aligned on that install that you've described.
Yep.
Yeah, so I know one of the things that we can never do enough is obviously educate our players, and we're going to talk about the ease of use. Obviously, the system here, with the front, middle, back, or to the pin. We think it's a state of the art in terms of the animation and how it presents the holes, and even the fact that we put it portrait, which is how you're looking down the golf hole. That is a decision because we want to make this work for the golfers rather than sideways and you have to think around the corner. And yeah, it needs to be simple. So there's a color logic that yeah comes in play in what you guys look at in the back end, but also what the player sees because down here this bar that says on pace changes color if you're out of position or if you even a delayer, like if you like that offending group that impacts others. So Caleb, a question for you: how do you make the system visible to the golfers? How do you talk about it in terms of what's in place, and also who have you got dialed into the system at the on your staff?
So it starts from bag drop. Um, our personnel up there give it a little introduction to how the screen will work during their round. When you walk into the golf shop, we display a screen that shows the entire course map and gives the pace of play and where folks are at. So you get the guy checking in at 11:30, he can look up at the big monitor that we have and he goes, "Oh, your pace of play is 4 hours and 10 minutes currently," which is huge because that also translates back to the player going, "Okay, these guys are watching us at every single moment." I mean, from literally every shot, you can see these guys out there on the golf course. Then down to our starters before they even go on the round, they give them a little tutorial of how to use the system, which is pretty easy. Um, the big thing that you had on the screen just a second ago is what we are going to implement this year of educating them on the color scheme, which is
Mhm.
useless to me because I'm colorblind, but I know how it works. uh, but we're going to be putting in something very similar to what that screen is there,
Yeah.
just showing them where they are on their pace while they're out playing. Sometimes a lot of people forget how to read because they're so excited to play golf. But
Yeah.
educating them on where they're at, and the system takes care of pace of play. I mean, almost on its own. It eliminates the old Marshall that nobody likes, no matter what, even if he's a teddy bear.
Yeah, it's a very tough job being a marshal, right?
Yeah.
Because the role is just not well liked. So we often advocate the course that we work with. Well, just reposition the role, right? Can it be called a course ambassador or a play assistant? And many saying, well, we don't need that role. We can just run the things from the clubhouse because we know exactly where the problem is. And that's where, yeah, the system obviously tracks everything that moves. And then we've got a number of smart algorithms that determine what is the biggest problem on the course right now. And one of the big factors is how early on in the round is a group falling out of position. And then also the biggest one is in terms of the ranking, who's the worst offender than another, is what's the impact on groups behind? Are we delaying somebody, right? Because this group number 14 is red, that means they're a bit out of position, but they're currently not delaying anyone behind them. So system tells you that's the one to focus on, group 28. They're 10 minutes out and they've got one group as a tail, and that's obviously not going to get better. And where are we on? Um, yeah, hole number 7, right? So quite early on in the round. And then the other thing that we always like to do is you guys use member sports. We, we have an API that grabs the player names and then you know who you're talking to, right? And I think it's specifically important if you have members and guests because you can address them appropriately. And if it's a member, your team will know who they are and then they can address them. And if it's a guest, maybe it's somebody who's first time there, they need to be looked after, right? So, so yeah, I think that we're hoping that this helps with the sort of white glove personalized service that you're trying to create. But just looking at the expanse of the course here, like, and it wraps around this the tree line. Do you remember a time when you yeah managed things without technology and without that line of sight? What was that like for you guys? Must have been quite an intense process.
It was eyes and ears, pencil and paper. Our golf course covers 450 acres, so getting out to the third hole is a long ways away from the golf shop. So it was, um, additional expensive personnel being out there.
Mm.
A lot of binoculars back in the day, which you don't have to use quite as often.
That's great to hear. Um, Right. So let's yeah jump ahead to what does the player actually see, and so when they're hitting a certain threshold, they simply get an alert, right? And it covers up that range finding that they normally see as they approach the hole, and it has to be acknowledged. Yeah, we you can see the wording here is you are out of position, and that's something that we learned actually from the clubs in Wisconsin. You don't want to tell a player you're slow, which we could easily say you're slow, catch up, right? Players can't stomach that, right? That's exactly what corrective pace of play action means. But if we're saying we're out of position, that is, I'm not judging you as a player. I'm just saying currently out of position, but you can catch that up. And here's a course that I love their messaging. Um, and you guys can obviously get creative. You can do your own, but they're saying please keep doing what you can to get closer to pace. The golf course, the country, and the galaxy all thank you. And this is a friendly message, right? But I still get it, right? Right. And I don't know if you agree, but generally players want to be compliant, and especially when they've seen the big screen and they don't want to be the slowpokes. How are you finding them responding to your messages that they get on the system? Or do you prefer to handle it in person when it does escalate?
Well, we started before they even tee off, to let them know. I mean, the slogan we have here is "Keep it green," which is then you're on a good pace. If your screen changes color, then you might be seeing myself or a pro or
Hmm.
uh, and we do the personal experience first, but then we will use these alerts, and they're pretty well received for the most part. There,
Yeah,
there, there's always that one group, but uh, if you use this and your staff is well trained on it, you really can take care of the issue before it even happens. So
yeah,
hopefully you don't even have to get to that point, but utilizing that does work. And they have to acknowledge it. They have to, then you can see in the golf shop that they've accepted it and
got
see if
you.
they start scooting a little more.
Yeah, and let me just jump back here. So one of the things that we know is really important is that whoever goes out there, if they have a tablet with a live map on and they can show the players, hey, look, guys, this is your group, and you're currently 8 minutes out of position. That's data, right? It's not an opinion.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've learned that this really levels the conversation, and that it's very easy. Let's find a solution, and everyone can be happy and have a great day out. Um, yeah, so one of the things that comes with better management is um, because in an unmanaged world, a group that's 10 minutes out of position will an hour from now be 20 minutes out of position. A group that has a trail of two groups will an hour later have 20 players that they're impacting, right? So what comes with better management is that we can actually control things, and then we can look at, well, how does the course really run from a timing, and how can we optimize that? And I know that you obviously think about your experience that you're trying to create as the best possible hybrid of that private club experience, and you're allowing guests in that space that are paying a nice daily rate, and you've got all the pedigree, so you can really choose. But there are a lot of operators out there that I know that like, hey, how can we make hay while the sun shines right now, and we've got full tee sheets. Well, what if we had a few extra tee times? Could we sell them? What's that worth to our business? And how can we do it safely? Because there was a time 10 years ago when some operators said, well, we'll just run 6 minute intervals. And well, no matter what happens out there, at least we've processed more players, right? And we got our revenue targets, but it doesn't work if the experience isn't great, right? You then get a reputation as being a slow golf course and that backfires. But there is a way to do it right. And I just want to point out that like somebody decides they run 11-minute intervals or 10, how can we get that to 8? Why does that matter? Because the one gives you a 4 million revenue baseline business, just the 3 minutes difference in terms of available capacities, 18 tee times, or a 6 million revenue business. And to many operations, that is the difference between strong business case, profitability, or we're just scraping by. And it lies in that decision, right? So we also know that no, it's not, you cannot just go from 12 minutes to 8 minutes overnight. That's open heart surgery. But with the system, and understanding the data and understanding how the day runs really based on data, not anecdotal, we can get you into tightening intervals at the faster parts of the day, and then creating incremental opportunities around this. And this is why we're here, right? Like we need to make sure that we save you money and that we make you money. Otherwise, you don't need our system. And that's how we think about it. So we've obviously got a ton of data from with you guys now, where you've got your average round time dialed in really well versus your goal time, and I think the course is so large, to play that course in 4 hours 20, I think is fantastic. But even your first of the day runs in 4 hours, right? So you could potentially, or you could look at, hey, we're going to play members in that slot, and they know the course, so we can tighten things a little bit. I just want to ask you, like, how are you thinking about, yeah, those possibilities maybe now, with the new season ahead is, and yeah, is this something that that you would consider tightening intervals here or there, or maybe extending intervals if you know you've got a lot of guest play, giving them a bit more space, just a bit different to just the flat application of intervals. I just want to pick your brain a bit how you're thinking about that.
Well, traditionally, we've always just been 10 minutes. And you think a lot about this, but with the data that we've received from Tag over the past several years is showing us that I could probably go 8 minutes till, just say 11 o'clock.
Mm.
And then go back to 10, use all the data where we can gain an additional, maybe it's 10 tee times or so, however we would set up our tee sheet to
Yeah.
to accommodate that. But this shows that we have more space to get a few more players out there, member play, public play, whatever it might be. So not having this before is a lot of pencil and paper. Do we try this? And it's with technology now, it's easier to, I mean, it's a click and drag of a button on your computer to adjust your tee times for the most part. This is extremely helpful for us and something that we're looking at. I know, Bodo, we've been talking about this just the other day of what we
Yeah.
could do.
Yeah, look, so I know this is not it's not an easy thing to decide, right? So that's where like we have our customer success team, the majority of them are actually PGA accredited. They've sat in your seat, right? So they will analyze the data with you and then find an incremental way to just
Yep.
go and explore. And yeah, you don't have to do anything extreme. You just have to do it step by step and just keep dialing in the system and your team. And then the players will have the same, if not a better experience, and you can have a few more tee times out, which is obviously good for your bottom line. So great that you're confident that this can be explored. And we're obviously excited to have you guys upgrading from the 8-inch to the 10-inch, and maybe add even more efficiencies and automation through that. So your opportunity, it obviously can be considered, or there may be certain days of the week where it makes sense, right? Because I'm seeing that your less busy days run quite a bit faster. And you may then look at, hey, what are we doing on a Tuesday, Wednesday? When do we have most of our member play? They know the course well. Maybe that's an opportunity. Get a few more of them out. But the great thing is that you have data to make decisions with, and that's obviously our job to make that accessible. But the other thing that's important, and you guys in California, yeah, feel the pain of rising labor costs at the head of the spear here, right? And rising input costs. How can you be more efficient, and how can technology help you? You mentioned already that yeah, just having bodies out on the golf course to manage things, you don't need to do that anymore, which is great because then you can get better people to yeah really create experiences rather than somebody just chasing people. But there are a few items or a few opportunities with the system that we've obviously built over time that normally add additional value to your management. And one of them is the track map. So every single round that got played at Grizzly Ranch, and that may have been 18,000 last year, every single round has a history, right? That we have tracked. And we know where everyone's been at what point and what their pace was and how your team has engaged with them if they've logged that into action. So you may not look back at last year's rounds, but sometimes you look back at the round that happened an hour ago or a round that happened yesterday because you might get a complaint or something didn't work out. So just how do you guys use the track map? Is it how is it adding value to you?
Well, the track map comes in extremely handy for the side of the player that's out there that is saying he might be having a slow round, where he goes, "This is going to be a 5.5 hour round." Well, that track map tells you exactly where they are at every single moment. So we use that, especially for that person. So when he comes in off of 18, because usually we've already fixed the problem. And he goes, that was 5.5 hours. And you can use the track map and show him exactly where he was, how long okay, maybe one hole took 5 minutes longer than it should.
Mm.
But you can show them, and they're like, and that goes a long ways because they're like, well, wow, you are actually paying attention and you care. You're watching it. And then you can tell them, no, your round was actually 4 hours and 48 minutes or 33, whatever it might be. Uh,
Sure.
but we use this quite often.
Yeah, and I know that with pace, perception becomes reality, right?
Yes.
And somebody gets it into their head that because they waited on a tee box that this is now 5 hours and it's the worst thing ever. And then if they play a few bad shots, then it's the pacer's fault. And look, we get it, but it's important to keep a level head and to have data. So great to hear that you're digging into that. And then the other opportunity, obviously, is geofencing and potentially blocking off some areas that are sensitive. Yeah, is that something that you guys have tested out?
Yes. We, with having the gas carts, you can't shut the cart down, which I think is almost a good thing. So many people, when you're out on a course and you're like, dang it, I'm that guy, I'm in that position. And now my cart goes 1 mile an hour going
Yeah.
back. But we use this on our par threes in some trouble areas. We can also use it with our superintendent for areas that he does not want players to drive. You can adjust it. It takes a matter of moments to fix it. But we use it a lot on our par threes to warn them that they're not allowed to drive there.
So, yeah, you guys saw the pace alert earlier. So if somebody goes into a geofence, we can show that on the screen so that they know I shouldn't go across this line. It actually shows them. But then if they do, if they didn't pay attention, it'll pop an alert and it'll beep. It's like a truck reversing, right? So it's difficult to ignore, and generally people get the message. Yeah, obviously helpful, especially if there may have been a big rain or something and you want to protect some of your turf. I know that superintendents always want to know, can the system do that, right? And for good reason. One of the other things that superintendents often are interested in is the heat map that shows where do players go, where don't they go, where do they spend a lot of time, where do the carts potentially cause compaction. Is that something that you guys look at every now and then? Is there anything that you've learned with that?
Yeah, we've looked at it pretty extensively, especially with Mike, our superintendent, of where the high traffic areas are. We've also used it when it comes to our cart paths, which
Mhm.
numerous facilities have issue with cart paths and conditioning. We are learning that it's okay that we can spend less time on our cart paths and fix them and even do away with them in some areas, which is a huge savings on expense
So,
because everybody's driving on the fairways. That's what that heat map shows us. And the conditions of the golf course still stay the same.
Yeah, I think that's a great insight. And yeah, and as you're saying, like to keeping your cart paths in shape, especially if you have cold winters and frost, and that is a ongoing building site, right? So if you can
Yeah.
do away with a few of them because they're not actually needed, that makes a ton of sense. Yeah, we spoke about data, and yeah, I just want to um, yeah highlight again how majestic your course is. What hole is that we're looking at? Can do you
That's
recognize?
hole 12.
No, it looks so fun. Um, yeah, understanding the course through data, right? Because obviously you know the course inside and out, having been there for a decade and having driven it and played it so many times. But yeah, what's the data saying? What can we learn from the data? So this is what we call our analytics hub, where we are understanding how did each individual round go from a pace standpoint? Were there interactions with the players? Were we successful with our interventions if somebody fell out of pace? And then we've got a whole by whole runtime breakdown that even looks at how much time was spent on the tee box, fairway, and on the green versus expectation. And we have a distribution that shows how many of our rounds within that time frame, might be a single day, it might be a week, might be a month. We can set that up, were on pace or faster or just within a few minutes off pace or were significantly slow. There's obviously no perfect uh, um, yeah, golf course. It's always a work in progress, but we can always see the teams that put effort in. And here's an example of that, right? You're running your course at a 4:25 goal time, and you're bringing the stay in at 4 hours 9 minutes. Yeah, and it's fairly busy. So yeah, question is how do you use this data from a reporting standpoint? Is that something that you check in every now and then?
Well, we use this a lot for because we know we have specific days throughout the year with certain groups
Mhm.
of their pace of play and the data that we've had over the years of them playing. So then we'll come back to this where I mean, even at times I'll require some groups to purchase additional tee times because I know they're a little bit slower. So it doesn't affect the groups behind them. But you can go back to any single day and use this data where it's not the old pen and paper that I don't remember where I put that.
Sure.
At any moment, you can go to one of these days and look at it. So we use this quite often.
Yeah, that's great. And I know that even with the best intentions, pen and paper, that's where data dies, right? And even in a spreadsheet, there's if it's not automated, at some point, yeah, there may be days that are not tracked, or some people define a certain threshold difference to others if you've got multiple people contributing. And we're finding the easiest ways to get quality data is things are as automated as possible, right? And you can just set up and forget, and it just does it for you. And that's when a system does its job. So what we're seeing is that it's, and this is very normal, that it's only a few groups that are actually the problem, right? And you just got to find them and get on top of them, and then they may have an impact on other groups. And if you don't do that, then the impact obviously is compounded, and that then translates into the slower rounds and worse experience. But it's always makes sense to put the effort in being proactive, like you guys have done. And I love how you've made it part of your arrival, and there's a whole process around communication, around pace, and keeping it green and having the big screen in the clubhouse. All those things make a difference. Another thing that's important is we want the system to be as accurate as possible in terms of its tracking. And just to take you a step back, so we've got different zones on the golf course that our system tracks the carts and players through. And a par five may have 5 zones, a par three may have 3 zones, for instance. And we want to understand the hole by hole run times. Um, so have I lost you there, Caleb?
No, no, Zach, just I had to
Your,
tell somebody to go away.
your camera was mighty confused trying to look around the corner there.
Sorry.
Not a problem. But so we're talking about the hole by hole runtime and the time on green, time on tee, time on fairway, time on green, how that's broken down. And very often, yeah, you sometimes a course may have a challenging design in terms of you've got a very short hole followed by a very long hole. And you actually have two of those situations on the course here. Um, yeah, so have you adjusted some of these goal times, and is that something that you're looking at in terms of how can we manage people across some of these tricky areas on the course?
Uh, we haven't adjusted them yet, but we're going to now that I mean, 3 solid years of data with this. Um, but like for us, hole 1 through 6 on our golf course are a little bit tougher. Once you get through 6, if you're in a good number, you're going to have a good day. But hole 2 is probably one of the easiest holes. It's a relatively easy par 3. And then you come to the big boy of hole 3, which is a long par 5. And that's where you see our time of going to 22 minutes on that hole.
Mhm.
So that usually creates a log jam, which creates a phone call, which creates us having to go out there or send a message. But working through this data to figure out how we can adjust that is something that we're actively looking at currently.
Yeah, I think, look, it seems very nicely dialed in because the difference in your target time versus the actual hole average is very close, right? It's 40 seconds on hole one, 20 seconds on hole two, 48 seconds on hole three. So it's actually really well dialed in, and I'm pretty sure that that this has actually been adjusted over time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you would have had a genius first setup hand when you set up the system. But one of the things that you can obviously consider is how do we make hole two a little bit tougher, right? So we can buy a bit of time for hole three, or you can use a system where you can obviously run adverts for anything you want. Might be a brand, it might be an event at the golf course, or you could say, let's pop up an ad at the end of hole two or notification that says this is what's ahead, right? And you might just tell people, hey, you've got a really tough hole ahead. Just give the group in front of you the courtesy so they can play out of the hit zone, and because you're going to be there just now, right? So whatever it is, just to make sure that people understand that this is how the course is designed, this is how it's going to run, and it's not to their detriment. Right? We have operators that are saying we are positioning our drinks cart at this tricky position, right? So that we can buy a minute or two for the group ahead, teeing off that hole and make that a pleasant experience. So there's all sorts of tricks. Obviously, yours is very early on, but yeah, it's great to have the information, and then all the way to the halfway house, right? So your halfway house allocation is 5 minutes. It runs at 7. Yeah, what are some of the things that you can do to get controllables here? And yeah, what we would love for you to engage is yeah, how can you have food pre-orders or people think about what they're going to have ahead of time? Yeah, so looking ahead this season, obviously you're about to get very busy, and you're getting 10 new carts, and you're installing the 10-inch upgrade of Tagmarshal. But yeah, how are you thinking about adding some of those other features and turning them on for yourself? Yeah, for instance, the food pre-order, how could that work at the club?
Well, it'll integrate with our point of sale system. So we have not done this in the past where you can just have the scan, it'll pop up on the screen coming off the seventh green, where it'll track the cart number, it'll process the order, but everything's prepaid done, so it leads to a better turn time. We have not implemented this, but we're going to now that we have that capability. This can be huge for us, especially on the turn time, because we try and keep the turn time to around 10 minutes. I think we can
Sure.
actually increase that.
Hmm.
And using the same feature is going back to our issue at 2 and 3. we're going to set up a pre-order once you get to the second tee where they
Mhm.
can order drinks, and I'm going to try and slow them down for 3 minutes
Yeah.
because it's relatively close to our restaurant where somebody can run them out a drink. We don't do a beverage cart on the golf course.
Okay. Yeah, that might just work, right? But the nice thing about this is that, hey, you can try it out, right? Try it
Yep.
out, see if it works, and then see what the impact is on the timings, and what are the players saying, right? Is it right for them? So I just want to go back to that. Yeah, hole eight for you guys is 12 minutes. Hole nine is 13 minutes. So if you were to pop up this order your food now ad at the end of the eighth hole, that gives you halfway house time to prep. And like you said, if they have a screen or an iPad or something that they can see the carts approaching, they can see the player names, they can personalize their service a bit, and they know to have the food ready. So it makes that process a bit more efficient. Yeah, and then wind is obviously always a factor. One of the things that we're super excited about, I mentioned that earlier, is wind tag and yeah, putting those little wind meters on the flags and they automate the pin location. So again, it's an efficiency play for you guys where you can then you don't have to input the pin location into a system. It automatically pulls it, and then the players have to the pin information, and they know what the wind's doing that they're playing into. And like any good solution, this came from an old problem, right? Where Ben Holbrook, who came up with this fantastic idea, he was a bit short. He loves playing at the Olympic Club down in San Francisco, wagering with his friends. He was a bit short because of the wind, and he was like, "Why are we still throwing grass in the air? It's 2025, right? To get a wind feel. Surely we can come up with some technology to make this better." I know that's something that you guys are interested in. How do you think it might help and the players and maybe do you think the members would appreciate it more or the out of towners?
Well, I think everybody's going to appreciate it more. I'm going to very appreciate it the most with our superintendent because it satisfies a lot of pin location errors that you can run into at times.
Sure.
That's what we're mainly excited for using this system. But uh, I've shown some demos of this to some players, and I think it'll be huge. They'll all enjoy it.
Nice. I know one of the things, and a lot of golfers might say, "Yeah, but I'm not quite good enough." I'm like, I'm just trying to get to the green. So,
None of
but then
them are
you
good
ask them,
enough.
but if you had the data, like if you had that, would you look at it? Says, yeah, of course I would, right?
Yeah.
So I think it'll, and I've demoed this at a course actually close to Pebble Beach where we were at an event, and it was a par three over water, and yeah, obviously guys jump out their carts and pick up a bit of grass, and then they choose their club, and then we show them the data. It's like you might be short here. I was like, what? That's the wind? No way. Where I'm standing, it's very different. No, that's what you're playing into. And then they change their club and they yeah hit the green very nice. It's like I wouldn't have had I not known, right? So that's when it becomes addictive. So we're excited to see this roll out. Yeah, then obviously most importantly, and you said it, you're here to create experiences. What's the player response been? And obviously you have members, you have guests, and there's two layers to this question. The response to you guys have a system that takes care of pace of play, question one, and the other one, hey, there's a cool screen in the cart that shows me the distance and I know what I'm playing into. So what are the players? What have they been saying? Was it a good according to them, or have you had complaints?
Yeah, over the years since we've had tag, uh, our players have even come to us saying, I've noticed your pace of play has gotten much better since having this system. It's fairly self-explanatory to saying if you're in or out of position. The one thing I really enjoy is we allow private carts out here, and a lot of times the members will come to us to get one of our carts because they like the screen and they like using it just you can hop out of your seat, you can look up, and you're getting an accurate yardage. I mean, to the yard specifically. So they that's probably the best part that I enjoy about the system, the ease of use that they all talk about. Um, Whether you want to do ads and different things, that's completely up to your own operation. But
That's brilliant to hear. And I know our team obviously comes out and installs, and we always try and make that as low impact as possible on your operation, right? And sometimes an install window falls in the height of your season, right? So I know our install team is always trying very hard to work around you so that you've got your fleet available as much as possible. And one of our superhero installers, Dean, I think he didn't want to leave. He just loved being at the club because you are yeah so authentic in making people feel welcome, and he really told everyone like I just had the best time at Grizzly, and they're such good people, and yeah, so I wanted to thank you for being so good to work with for our team. And that's yeah, that's great to hear. So one of the things that we always get asked, so what about training? How can we get the team onboarded? Obviously, some
yeah,
operations may make sense to get 10 people trained up, either very in depth or just on the basics. And we do have one customer success associates that help with the training and the setup, and we have an online system that has video-based training. So I wanted to just ask you, how has that been for you guys from a training and getting going standpoint? I mean, now it's a second nature. You know exactly what you're looking at. But when you got started, and also when maybe you get a new member on, how quickly do they a new staff member on, how quickly do they pick up Tagmarshal and get into it?
well, it's a big focus for myself down the chain here to get everybody trained. So going through that online training that we've done, we I mean we start from day one with this. It's a pretty simple system to use. You can always learn something new every single day because there's so many capabilities. There's some that I don't even know about yet uh, of what this system can do. But from day one, when they from the bag drop to my golf professionals that we have here, everybody needs to be well versed on this system because it's going to take care of a lot of problems as long as you are trained correctly on it. It it's extremely simple to use. So I mean, we do it from even our grounds crew guys use it. Our mowers are using it
Mm,
to track where people are and more efficient areas to go mow for a time being.
sure. Yeah, they want to know if there's gaps in the field, right? So they can get some of the things done. Well, that's great to hear. And one of the things that I know is that as a manager, yes, you want to make sure that you guys are trained, but you don't necessarily have the time to sit them down for an hour, right? And make sure that they know what's up. So that's why we invested in this learning management system. And the nice thing is, as the system improves and there's new feature, we just update the learning management content. And yeah, this is where AI is pretty awesome now because we can even do it in Spanish or in French, right? So that yeah, as we're growing into these markets, we can make sure that everyone has the same level of education. And the nice thing is, some of these courses are now even PDR accredited, which I know the golf pros have a double benefit now. They're learning about system, they get better with it, they get better outcomes, and they get a nice credit. So that's yeah, that's new. And then another thing that's new for us this season, and when you guys upgrade to the 10-inch, and we'll turn on that feature for you. It's called Tag Assist. So that's a little robot that we've given a brain. It's actually tremendous. The team has done a superb amount of work in feeding everything Tagmarshal into that little AI brain, and then you can ask a question and talk to it. Hey, how do you set up a geofence? Or I forgot how to start a shotgun round, and it'll give you an answer right then. So we're quite excited that because that's also going to keep getting better and better. And yeah, and like you said, there is a baseline use of the system is quite intuitive, but then once you want to get into the optimization and learn how to use the data, then it helps to have a bit of education. Um, Caleb, is there anything else that you think yeah should be shared with the world out there? And I also want to just compliment us on being exactly 1 hour now. We're perfectly on pace, like we're supposed to be.
I think the one part of it the transition, whether you have tag currently or looking into this, we've done the transition in mid-season, and the techs and everybody that come out, it's been a seamless. It's a mute point how you can upgrade to the system with your carts, whether they're working at night or even during hours of operation. That's been the best part. Uh, Switching over screens and different things that we've done, it doesn't interfere with operations.
That's brilliant. All right. What's been happening on the Masters front? I know you've been keeping an eye. We can't help it.
Sam Burns is now, he's in first right now. A lot of golf left.
Early days, early days. All right, Caleb, I want to thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. And yeah, all the best for the season. I know you had an early start, and yeah, I hope that yeah we'll have a long and fruitful partnership. And maybe one day I'll be lucky enough to come visit you guys.
It's
And
it's a requirement. I'm not signing another contract till you come.
I love it. Okay, no, we'll be at MCOR in Monterey in a few weeks from now. So. I'm almost down the road. All right, Caleb, all the best, and yeah, enjoy the Masters weekend, and all the best for the season. And thank you for your partnership. We appreciate you.
No problem. Thank you.